Polls show that a majority of Americans think that Vice President Kamala Harris is more mentally and physically fit to be president than Donald Trump. And Trump's disadvantage here is only compounded by the fact that Harris has recently released her medical records, but Trump is refusing to release his. And now, panicked, a desperate Trump is trying to reshape the narrative, and I don't think it's working. But before we unpack all that, if you end up liking this video and you want to support the channel, please be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and alert bells before you go. All right, friends, we have several things to look at in this video. Donald Trump is panicked and he is desperate and he's doing everything in his power to try to reshape the narrative, which shows conclusively that more Americans think that Harris is mentally and physically fit to be president than Trump. So Trump recently put on Truth Social, I believe it's very important that Kamala Harris pass a test on cognitive stamina and agility. Her actions have led many to believe that there could be something very wrong with her. Even 60 Minutes and CBS, in order to protect lying Kamala, illegally and unscrupulously replaced an answer she'd given, which was totally bonkers, with another answer that had nothing to do with the question asked. Also, she is slow and lethargic in answering even the easiest of questions. We just went through almost 4 years of that. We shouldn't have to do it again. Now, very interesting that Donald Trump would make any of these accusations, given that he has never been very quick and concise and direct with answering questions. He refuses to answer questions directly. He can't speak substantively about policy. He's gone viral, increasingly viral, with these word salad answers to easy questions like, how are you going to cut childcare costs? How are you going to lower energy costs? And then he'll filibuster for 3.5 minutes, sometimes with even conservative friendly news hosts having to redirect him back to the question in an otherwise softball interview. But the reason that Trump is panicked about this is because, and this is all over the news, that Vice President Harris has released, her medical records and an updated examination, a health summary. The White House has released a health summary for Vice President Harris in which her physician says she is in, quote, excellent health and possesses the physical and mental resiliency required to successfully execute the duties of the presidency. And it's a full-on letter going into details about her blood pressure and her medical history and things like that, a full medical workup. Now, Donald Trump has refused to do that. Of course, Donald Trump also enlists Ronnie Jackson, who is, he is a physician. He used to be in the Navy. He used to be a physician for President Obama. And now he's a MAGA Republican congressman who is unhinged. This is a guy who was credibly accused by medical reviews of the White House when Jackson was in charge and was physician to Donald Trump and President Obama, as handing out pills and engaging in all kinds of illegal, unethical behavior. I think he was also handing out uppers and amphetamines out like candy, right? They called him the candy man. So not exactly the most reliable medical source. Trump says things like, people say that I'm the most fit president. My doctor says that I'm the most fit president to ever be president. More fit than President Obama? Please. So anyway, dubious sources nonetheless. And yet he's still reluctant to even pass that sort of thing out. And so people are drawing attention to this. When it comes to his medical records, his tax records, Donald Trump has always been reluctant to be transparent with the American people. So this is making national news. And given that this is a competitive election in which any issue could be a game changer, even temporarily, this is why Donald Trump is panicking. And Vice President Harris knows it, and so she's drawing attention to it as well.
So today I released my medical records, as has, I believe, every candidate for president of the United States except Donald Trump in this election cycle. And it's just a further example of his lack of transparency, that on top of his unwillingness to debate again, his unwillingness to do an interview with 60 Minutes, which again is part of the norm of what anyone running for president of the United States does. And I think that it's obvious that his team, at least, does not want the American people to see everything about who he is. And you put that on top of even the most recent reports of General Milley, one of the people who worked the closest with Donald Trump, referring to him as being unstable. And it is clear to me that he and his team do not want the American people to really see what it is that he is doing and whether or not he actually is fit to do the job of being president of the United States.
And she's been hitting him really hard on this. And we're going to give some other examples as well. The Trump campaign, because of course they are, easily baited, effortlessly baited. They responded to this, even though Trump himself is not directly. Trump campaign statement on President Trump's medical records. Trump has voluntarily released updates from his personal physician, as well as detailed reports from Dr. Ronnie Jackson, who treated him after the first assassination attempt. Again, Jackson being the unhinged, discredited, disgraced physician who is now a MAGA Republican congressman. All have concluded he is in perfect and excellent health to be commander in chief. No, not perfect. I mean, again, 78 years old. He has a terrible diet. He's obese, obviously not a beacon of health. He has maintained an extremely busy and active campaign schedule, unlike any other in presidential history, political history, whereas Kamala Harris has been unable to keep up with the demands of campaigning and reveals on a daily basis she's wholly unqualified to be president of the United States. Her schedule is much lighter because, it is said, she does not have the stamina of President Trump. Polls are reflective of this. Well, I don't know what polls he's talking about because the polls I've seen actually show the opposite. Again, the most recent one that I've seen, which has polled physical and mental fitness, came about 4 weeks ago from NBC News. And they talk about that she has a 20-point advantage, 20-point advantage over Trump. Harris's best results are on protecting immigrant rights, where she has a 28-point lead over Trump, abortion plus 21 points, having the necessary mental and physical health to be president plus 20 points, having the right temperament to be president plus 16 points. And also when it comes to competence, being competent and effective, she has a 5-point advantage over Trump. So I don't know what the hell they're talking about when they say that the polls reflect it, because all the polls I've seen indicate the contrary, that Harris is seen as the more physically and mentally fit candidate by far. Now, Trump could still win despite that. But, again, this is of all the many MAGA lies, this is one of the more egregious ones. But again, Harris is pouncing on this as well. She should. So this is from the Harris HQ or Kamala HQ official Twitter page.
I invite the public to watch his rallies and be the decision maker on his acuity.
Just come up. They want to do things like no more cows and no windows in buildings. They have some wonderful plans for this country. Honestly, they're crazy.
They're crazy, Donald. They're crazy. Of course, it wouldn't be Donald Trump and MAGA if otherwise professional MAGA Republicans didn't, sacrifice what's left of their credibility, dignity, sanity, and spirituality to prop up his ridiculous decision. So here you have MAGA Republican Mike Johnson, the Republican Speaker of the House, being asked about Trump's refusal to be transparent with the American people and release his medical records, even though, again, he's in some sort of obvious mental decline. He's 78 years old, the oldest presidential candidate in American history. He's overweight. He has a terrible diet. And the American people know all this, which is why the polls are what they are when it comes to physical and mental fitness, and they're at a colossal disadvantage for Trump. So Mike Johnson was asked about Donald Trump's decision to not release his medical records. And this is Mike Johnson's cope.
Happened under Donald Trump's watch. But let me just ask you about medical records since you raised them.
No, Kristen,
should Donald Trump release all of his medical records?
New account.
Should Donald Trump release all of his medical records?
He has.
Speaker?
He issued the records of his physicians. Kamala Harris issued her medical records as a diversion because she's desperate because she's sinking in the polls. Donald Trump's health is on display. Everyone in America can see it. The man works nonstop. He never quits. He probably sleeps 4 hours a night. He doesn't require as much sleep as the average person. He's an unusual figure. And this is the strength that we need in a time like this. We're in the most dangerous moment since World War II.
So there you go. Mike Johnson doesn't care. Mike Johnson is defending Trump's lack of transparency. But I love this phrasing, the American people can see it. It's on full display. Well, that's, again, why the polls in this respect look like they do. Again, just because of pure partisanship and the cult of personality surrounding Trump, this is going to be a competitive election unless the polls are wildly off base. And, there's a Kamala Harris landslide coming, which, God, I hope that's the case. But we have no evidence of that, right? So the fact that Johnson is appealing to how competitive the polls are, well, that's irrelevant. That's partisanship. That is, a sandwich with an R next to its name would get 47% of the vote, I imagine. So, but that's fine. Again, Donald Trump could very easily still win this election. But when you look at polling about physical and mental fitness, your guy loses by anywhere from upper digit single or upper digit, single points or double digits. That's how bad it is for your guy. Maybe he should release his medical records, especially if he's the dynamo, that you say he is. And by the way, again, imagine when the shoe was on the other foot. When President Biden was the presumptive Democratic nominee, this is all they wanted to talk about. And again, even I said, listen, I don't mind that this is all you talk about. Just hold the candidates to the same standard. They're still, not only are they still refusing to hold the candidates to the same standard, now they no longer want to talk about it because they recognize that Trump is at a colossal disadvantage against the vice president when it comes to competence, physical and mental fitness. Last thing, Kamala Harris again hit Donald Trump on this during a recent campaign rally in North Carolina. This is what she had to say.
And he's not, but here's the thing, North Carolina, and he's not being transparent with the voters. He's not being transparent. So check this out. He refuses to release his medical records. I've done it. Every other presidential candidate in modern era has done it. He is unwilling to do a 60 Minutes interview. Like every other major party candidate has done for more than half a century. He is unwilling to meet for a second debate. And here's the thing, it makes you wonder, why does his staff want him to hide away? One must question, are they afraid that people will see that he is too weak and unstable to lead America? Is that what's going on? So folks, for these reasons and so many more, it is time to turn the page.
Well said, Madam Vice President. Yeah, so it's interesting to see Donald Trump flailing. He's desperately trying to reshape the narrative because he knows the narrative is working against him. And again, in a competitive election like this, any like micro scandal could have, an outcome determinative impact. So we'll see what happens. In the meantime, let me know what you think in the comments.